98% of drug users in the Gambia start with cigarette smoking, Red Director says. Gambian leader called for concerted efforts to achieve Africa's food self-sufficiency drive. Lamin Kababajo to run for Gambia Football Federation presidency. Kenya to resolve visa row with South Africa. These and other stories coming ahead in the news. I am Fatmata Jajo. To begin with, the Gambia's former diplomat Dr. Lamin Kababajo is one of the potential candidates for next month's Gambia Football Federation presidential elections, the Daily Observer newspaper reported. According to the paper, the former Minister for Youth and Sports was nominated by all the 7 regional football associations except Lower River Region. The School Football Association, Young Africans, Banjo United, Real de Banjo, Hawks, St. Mati and Serekunda East were also said to have nominated him for the post. Dr. Kababajo was a retired Army captain who served as Commissioner for Western Division. He has also held various ministerial positions in the country. This includes Minister of Interior, Minister of Youth and Sports, Minister of Local Government and Lands. He also served as Gambian ambassador to many countries in the world, including Saudi Arabia and Morocco. Stakeholders in Gambian football will next month go to polls to elect a new executive for the Gambia Football Federation. The country director for aid, the Gambia, Sambujang Conte, has said that 98% of drug users in the Gambia start with cigarette smoking. Mr. Conte, who was speaking to iAfrica TV in an exclusive interview, said the report was the driving force behind the aggressive campaign against tobacco in the country. According to him, the fact that tobacco kills more than 6 million annually and 600,000 people and died because of second-hand smoking is everybody's concern. He noted that the information they received from the non-communicable disease under the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare indicates that every 100 of deaths of non-communicable diseases, 5% is caused by tobacco-related infection at Edward Francis Moore Hospital.
Why we intervene this aggressive campaign for tobacco control? The agency main objective is drug prevention and education. But we conduct a survey in the country. We realize that we cannot find any single drug users in this country without starting cigarette smoking. 98% of drug users in this country, they all start cigarette smoking. That's why we says that if we are not intervene aggressive campaign on tobacco control, we cannot achieve our objective in drug prevention and education.
The Gambian leader has called for concerted efforts in order to achieve food self-sufficiency drive that the continent is committed towards achieving. President Jammeh, who was speaking at the 23rd African Union Summit, in order to realize the continent's dream, Africans must come under one umbrella and help each other in terms of resources, he said. During the summit held last month in Malabo, African leaders committed themselves to end hunger and reduce poverty by half in 2025. Mariama Kamara has more.
It is said that agriculture is the backbone of any developing nation, and this has been the philosophy of sub-Saharan African leaders since independence. To accomplish their efforts to end hunger and drastically reduce poverty, African leaders committed to new priorities, strategies and concrete targets around agriculture-led growth to achieve food and nutrition security for shared prosperity for their people by 2025. Building on the positive growth performance of many agricultural sectors in recent years, the new targets will push governments to move faster in creating a policy and infrastructure environment in which agriculture can strive and generate income opportunities at all levels. Speaking at the 23rd African Union Summit, the Gambian President Yahya AJJ Jammeh asserted that in order to achieve food self-sufficiency, Africans have to come under one umbrella and help each other in terms of resources. According to him, commercializing agriculture will not work for the subsistence farmers as the interest rate laid by commercial banks is too high.
commercialization of agriculture as the solution. Yes, I agree with that. But like in the Gambia, if a small-scale farmer wants to take a commercial loan from a commercial bank, he will be working for the commercial bank because the interest rate alone is too high. So either we form a continental agricultural bank, or maybe the African Development Bank can have a commercial window, agricultural window for African farmers. Otherwise, government will not be able to provide enough incentives for all the farmers. But I think if we work as a continent together, we should be able to solve all these problems.
The Gambian leader further suggested the creation of an African Agricultural Development Bank or the African Development Bank to come out with favorable schemes for small-scale farmers. Jammeh urged leaders to facilitate intercontinental trade, as Africa, he said, can make a huge market for the continent. To many, the president's Vision 2016 to ban the importation of rice into the country sounds impossible. But to Jammeh, the Gambia can feed herself if the population gives the attention needed to be self-sufficient in terms of food. Mariam A. Kamara, iAfrica TV.
In the news, Nigeria delays start of school year over Ebola virus. Kenya to resolve visa row with South Africa. Erdogan sworn in as Turkey's new president.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala barakatuh. Angul ñam non man lu dama ko kontu sa dom lijeenti ko. Non bu ci tayam sa téléphone sa ordinateur sa laptop ya xam li nga mënti am dama lay lijeenti. Killing our children wrong. Crying our children wrong. Child labor li nekk ci réew mi ñun ñepp ñu koy dund. Askan wi ñepp ngi wax. Assalamualaikum.
Si reeni réew la nekk parce que métier ndaw yëpp ko war a jàng so dafa am solo trop ba loolu nice record la ba pare loolu tam seede la
While as the Western media turn attention to Ukrainian crisis leaving the war-torn Syria,
if you want to plan for today, plan tomorrow.
Over 95,000 refugees from 610 million euros in microfinancial aid.
David Kinkoli has been finally inaugurated as the program from the team.
While to Nigerian students who are expecting to start the new academic year next week, they still have a month before going back to school as the Nigerian authorities delayed the resumption of classes in all public and private schools till October. The move, according to officials, is meant to put necessary measures in place against the Ebola virus, which has claimed 5 lives in Lagos. So far, over 1,400 people have died of the virus in Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria since it all began in March. Ajada Haba gives us more.
Nigeria has said that resumption of classes in all public and private schools will be delayed by a month to put in place preventive measures against the Ebola virus, which has claimed 5 lives in Lagos. According to officials, all primary and secondary schools in private and public sectors are to remain closed until Monday, October 13. The new academic year was due to start on Monday, but officials said the delay is to ensure that adequate preventive measures are put in place before students resume.
We have only one serious Ebola case in Nigeria right now, so if we can be able to tackle that one, it can help to curtail it, keeping them at home for a while. To me, it's a very good idea. because in order to curtail this Ebola outbreak, when the students are in section, they can easily be spread with them because some of them are very careless. They don't know much about hygiene.
Earlier Tuesday, the Federal Health Ministry said that 2 more people had been released from isolation after recovering from Ebola, leaving only 1 living patient with the disease in the country. The ministry said Nigeria has recorded 13 confirmed cases of Ebola, including the Liberian-American Patrick Sawyer, who brought the virus to the economic capital Lagos on July 20 and died 5 days later. The only patient in the country who currently has Ebola is said to be the wife of a doctor who treated Sawyer. The World Health Organization said last week that it was encouraged by a situation in Nigeria, given that all of the confirmed cases came from a single chain of transmission. The deadliest ever outbreak of the virus has killed more than 1,400 people in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone since it all began in March. An estimated 2,615 people in West Africa have been infected with the disease so far. Ebola was first discovered in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1976 in an outbreak that killed 280 people. It remains one of the world's most virulent diseases, which kills between 25 to 90% of those who fall sick. For Africa TV, Ajifatu Dahara.
A top Libyan official has warned the United Nations Security Council that the North African country could descend into a full-scale civil war if militias are not disarmed. The situation in Libya, according to officials, since the 13th of July has become even more complicated and might unravel into a full-blown civil war. This comes as Islamist militias openly challenge the legitimacy of parliament after announcing their seizure of Tripoli airport. Nearly 3 years after the fall of longtime ruler Muammar Gaddafi in a popular uprising in October 2011, Libya is still grappling with rising insecurity as the country has been witnessing numerous clashes between government forces and rival militant groups that refuse to lay down arms despite efforts by the central government to impose law and order. Recent weeks forcing foreign countries to evacuate their nationals. Meanwhile, the long-standing visa row between Kenya and South Africa may possibly come to an end as the foreign affairs diplomats of both countries are preparing for talks. Kenyan Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed is expected to travel to South Africa in mid-September to discuss the visa issue with South African country. Travel between the two countries has recently been complicated by new immigration requirements that have made it harder for Kenyans to get to South African. Mariama Kamara gives us more.
Kenya and South African heads of foreign affairs diplomats are scheduled to meet mid-next month to resolve a simmering visa row. Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed said Kenya will have to impose reciprocal visa requirements for South Africans travel into the country if South Africa maintains current visa rules against Kenyans. Amina was speaking at a press briefing on Kenya's economic diplomacy initiatives, where she outlined what the government was doing to foster trade with the rest of the world.
On the visas with South Africa, we have a meeting scheduled with the Foreign Minister of South Africa, and we both agreed. We addressed some of the challenges that we have, both countries have. We discussed them. We were very candid and open about them. We also discussed what measures we needed to put in place so that we can relax the regimes on both sides.
Kenya hopes to have resolved a diplomatic spar with South Africa before the end of September. Travel between the two countries have recently been complicated by new immigration requirements that have made it harder for Kenyans to get South African visas. Kenya has said that it plans to impose similar requirements on South Africans unless a deal can be reached next month. The Kenyan government has recently received heavy criticism from its concerned citizens after it suspended its visa restrictions against South Africa, which were to come into effect in July this year. If the discussions don't bear fruit, she added, Kenya will go ahead and impose its visa restrictions on South Africans, which were announced in April and were to take effect on September 1st. But Mohammed maintained that the move was to allow visitors from South Africa who had made their travel arrangements way before the new rules were imposed by Kenya to travel with ease. Kenya introduced the strict visa rules on the principle of reciprocity after South Africa overhauled its visa applications regime in December last year. Both countries have their visa regulations drawing a clear distinction between short-stay visas and long-stay permanent residence permits. Earlier on, Kenyans will get a free visa if they were staying for less than 30 days in South Africa, but required no visa if they were transiting through any South African airports, while South Africans did not require a visa for a 30-day stay in Kenya. For iAfrica TV, Mariam A. Kamara.
After serving 3 terms in the country's prime ministerial post, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has been officially sworn into as Turkish president. Erdogan won the country's first ever popular presidential election on August 10th, securing 52% of the vote. Mr. Erdogan's supporters say he has transformed Turkey's economy and have given a political voice to the country's conservatives. Ajad Haba gives us more.
Turkey's President-elect Recep Tayyip Erdogan has been officially sworn in today after winning the country's first ever popular vote for head of state. Erdogan, who became prime minister in 2003, won presidential elections on August 10 against a weak opposition, which accuses him of Islamizing tendencies but remains in disarray. In his speech, he said Turkey needed a new constitution, which analysts say will introduce the executive presidency that Mr. Erdogan openly seeks. He has also vowed to give more power to the previously ceremonial president's post. His critics say the move will make him increasingly authoritarian. Mr. Erdogan clamped down violently on anti-government protests last year and recently compared Israel's policy in Gaza to genocide. But leaders of top Western states will be conspicuously by their absence in a possible sign of suspicion towards Erdogan, who has been accused of authoritarian tendencies. Mr. Erdogan's supporters say he has transformed Turkey's economic and given a political voice to the country's conservatives. A man clearly with his eyes on history, Erdogan during his 5-year presidential term will have ruled Turkey longer than its modern founder Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, who established the republic out of the reigns of the Ottoman Empire. He can serve 2 mandates and so could stay in power until 2024. Which will allow him to see in the 100th anniversary of modern Turkey in 2023 and portray himself as a historic figure revealing Atatürk. For iAfrica TV, Ajifatu Dahaba.
Well, viewers, that does it for this edition of Gambia 24. For more of these and other stories, please log on to our website, iAfrica.tv.